Good evening and welcome to the March 8th, 2018 Traffic and Safety Board meeting. Roll call. Stoker.
Here.
Hang.
Here.
Coda here. Samuel Moore.
Here.
Maureen Moore.
Here.
Collins. And Chief Anderson.
Here.
Okay, introduction of guests. If you can, please state your name when coming up to the microphone and address if applicable.
Jack Hawley with Transportation Improvement Association.
Jenny Sham, Selfridge, here about the item A under new business.
Linda Hale, 940 West Selfridge. I'm here with Ginny Shawm in support of her.
Thank you very much. Next on the agenda is approval of minutes of January 4th, 2018.
I'll approve the minutes.
I'll second.
All those in favor of approving the minutes of January 4th, 2018, say aye.
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 Opposed? Minutes are approved. Second up is approval of minutes of February 1st, 2018 board meeting. Is there a motion to approve the minutes?
I'll make a motion to approve those minutes also.
And I'll second.
All those in favor of approving the minutes of February 1st, 2018, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Minutes are approved. Next on the agenda is old business. Item A, Jefferson Street parking.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I think I've seen some of our members down there on Jefferson watching, taking a look at things. The whole thing started, if you recall, of a resident, Cheryl Smith in the area, complained of vehicles parking on Jefferson Street for long periods of time. She believed that the vehicles are from the businesses on Main Street. Jefferson Street is currently signed on the north side, west of Main, from Main Street to the first drive of the on the north loading zone. That's, if I recall, that was for Moose Winooski's getting their deliveries. On the south side of Jefferson, it's posted no parking here to corner, just west of the second driveway. Mr. Cawley took a look at it, as my report says, and he said it looked, according to Google Earth, it looks like cars started appearing there more often in 2015, which is probably business related for Main Street, business getting a little more popular, and they're parking out there. We had at previous meetings, we said board members were going to go and take a look at it, and everybody kind of did their homework to see what they thought. So I don't know if anybody has anything on the board has anything to comment about what they saw down there.
Every time I've gone by there, I see maybe one car parked along there. I haven't seen it crowded there. I haven't seen a line of cars. I've gone at different times of the day. So,
And it appears that they're closer to the corner, the ones that
Yes.
are there.
yeah.
I think when we were there, we saw maybe one car, and that was a little bit closer to the corner, but nothing on the other side, on the north side either.
Okay. So it doesn't really look like it's what you've seen, a real congestion problem then?
No, I don't.
When I was there one evening, there was maybe 1-2 cars, but not an issue to get in and out, to get access out to and from the parking or drive along the street.
Well, I attached to my report, Mr. Cawley went there. Pat, are you prepared to talk on Jefferson Street? Or I can give you a copy of your email if you want to see what you...
I kind of remember.
Okay.
Yeah, I know. I just had a couple comments looking at it. I mean, I observed the same thing. I was there early in the morning though, so I wasn't sure if that was a time of day issue. But a couple things, I suggested to clean it up is maybe, bracket that loading zone so it's clear where that is. Typically, you want to go 40 feet, the length of a semi, to define that area, and then kind of clean up closer to the corner. That no parking area from the driveway to the corner was a little bit fuzzy, but other than that, I didn't see, like you say, the high demand of parking, and if you did and then got into, where we've discussed street width issues, maybe that would be an issue, but It didn't seem apparent to me at the time.
It didn't seem, it's not really a super I mean, it's not a busy street. Jefferson Street's pretty,
Right.
not super busy. So, at least from my past experience down there, so. Thanks, Pat.
I
And
didn't really
it-
see any traffic hardly at all over there, so, unless it was just that time of the day, but that was in the afternoon, and we thought maybe we might see, some other cars or something there, but we didn't see anything, and we've gone by it a couple of other times just in driving by and take a quick look down, but you don't see much of anything over there actually in the way of traffic.
Okay.
No. Now, I noticed too that Pat had some suggestions on new signs or
Right.
to change a few. Is that something we should do or wait until there's more of a problem or? Anybody?
Well, the first one about the loading zone, I think perhaps could be done. It sounded like it should have been done before. And
Yeah, it sounds
hasn't
like
been.
it might be missed, just to clear it up, to make it a little clearer, the area.
I assume the traffic control orders are already in place, it'd just be clarifying what's there.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't think at this
No.
point in time, I don't see that we'd need to do anything additional, other than clean up. I
Other
think
than
that's a good idea
maybe
to,
clean up what the traffic control orders say already, to
Yeah.
make sure that, and then that way it doesn't require a vote it, really, because there's already a traffic order in effect. I'll go through the archives over in the clerk's office and find the traffic control orders. And then we can do something like that, then that way, I don't think we need to, do any kind of action on that, other than just, the action would be
Bring that up to
bring it up
date.
to the way it's supposed to be, according to what the existing traffic orders say.
And see if maybe that might help.
Yeah.
We don't know yet, and then we can always readdress it.
so does the existing one,
I have to,
you have to take a look
yeah,
at it.
I have to take a look at it. I didn't
Okay.
take a look at it, so.
Yeah, and I did notice too on the south side where, as you're coming east on Jefferson, where it says no parking here to the corner, is right near a driveway, so I don't know if people might think.
I think that's what Pat
Yeah.
noted too here, that might be some confusion there with where that is.
If it means the corner of the street or the corner of the driveway or, but then I think there's another one right after that that says no parking too, so.
Any further discussions for this item?
Well, would that be, too, just updating those signs by putting newer signs there, so it's less confusing?
What I'll do is, I can, I guess if we can make an action motion to just do what we just kind of said, to kind of give direction with that, and I don't think that would need, and then what I'll do is I'll look at the existing traffic orders, and if there's something that varies from what the signage is right now or something, I mean, I'm trying to go through a little bit at a time to try to make sure that the traffic orders that are existing, some of them are really old.
Right.
And some of them aren't real clear, so it may be in need of doing, if that's the case, then I can come back to the board and we can maybe shore up a traffic order that we can get to council for approval of if something has to be changed in an
Okay.
existing traffic order.
Because it does look a little confusing the way it is right now.
Yeah,
Yeah, and then also if we wanted to look in that to the do not enter sign too, that goes into behind Musnowski's.
oh, yeah, with
I'm
the
assuming.
one-way for the
Yeah.
alleyway there.
Isn't that signed one way?
It is, but it's signed one-way in from 14 Mile Road. The talk was when they eventually had money to redo that lot, to do it opposite of what that is, to do the one-way coming in off of Jefferson Street rather than the one-way coming in off of 14 Mile Road.
Which is
Because what
probably a
happens-
much better
What
situation.
happens quite often is that if someone's coming across westbound on 14 Mile Road and they start turning in there, they cause a real mess. of
Oh,
things.
yeah.
Yeah.
So, and
And if
it's,
there's two people, it's a real big
yeah.
mess.
Right.
So that's the talk, but until then, it's one way going from 14 Mile Road to Jefferson instead of vice versa.
So this would be an altogether different issue.
Yeah, so
That
that
would be
would,
an altogether different issue. It would be when they do a design on the parking lot and a change, and what I've been told is that parking lot requires a lot of reconstruction, which is, isn't in the budget
Right.
for that reconstruction. So as far as, signing and everything, it probably wouldn't be the right time to
Do it now.
paint it and
Right.
redesignate it before it's redone, so.
So just leave that alone then.
Well, we could probably mark it accordingly if it needs to be clarified, according to what Pat said, was that it looks like it could use a little more clarity as far as to keep people from going the wrong direction up there, so.
I wonder, has that been an issue, do you think? Have you heard anything?
I have not heard of complaints there from it.
So we'll put that on the wait for, see what happens when they do redo that parking lot.
Yeah, because that would be part of the signage stuff and everything with that.
Right.
Well, that's not gonna happen,
I don't see it.
this year with that,
Right now, we've got coming up the 14 Mile Road and
Right.
Main Street project there, right in that intersection and going down along, that's the big project that's going on now. That's not part of this.
so it's not gonna,
No, that's not part of
Okay.
that's not part of that 14 Mile Road project they're going to be doing in the spring.
okay.
Do we need
Is there a motion? Or is there any further discussions on the item?
Do we need to make any type of a motion, or we'll just,
Probably a motion just for us to,
look into it?
make the signage in accordance with the existing, clear it up as far as Pat suggested, in accordance with the existing traffic control order. And then if that's a hiccup for us, I'll report back to the board, so.
All right, I'll make a motion for that.
And I'll second that motion.
Thank you.
Okay, all those in favor for reviewing the existing traffic order and have the new signage match the existing traffic order, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion has passed. Next on the agenda is new business. Item A, blind person in the area.
This would probably be a good time for Mrs. Shalom to come up.
Yes, I would like to request that we have blind persons in the area. I'm legally blind now, even though I've lived in that house for a long time. I'm on the corner of Selfridge and Phillips, where they meet at the fork in the road. And I would like to request to have a sign that says blind person in the area. However, whatever, distance that you guys just discussed about the last sign, down North Selfridge and down Phillips and down towards West Selfridge towards Crooks, so that it hits all the traffic that comes to that fork. Am I close enough to this mic for your
Yes,
comments?
yes.
Madam Chairman, may I ask a question of Mrs. Schramm?
Yes, go ahead.
Mrs. Schramm, do you
I
normally?
can't hear you.
Mrs. Schramm, do you normally go out by yourself if you're walking?
Of course.
You do,
My name is Ms. Sham.
Ms. Schramm, I'm sorry. And you do walk all by yourself?
Of course.
Okay. Okay, I was just wondering.
My way to get groceries is to walk.
Well, I think that's wonderful. I do.
Have you had a problem crossing with people going too fast or almost running you down, or?
Well, the cars in that area many times don't stop at the stop sign that's right in front of my house. They haven't for decades and decades. Many of the cars from North Selfridge go quite over the speed limit when they're coming in to join with Phillips. I mean, those are things that have nothing to do with my status of vision,
Right, I understand.
kind of thing. I was just trying to advocate for myself to be safer.
Is there any other questions for the board?
Question? It was just my asking for this.
Okay, thank you.
I've looked at some of the studies online that they've done regarding these signs, and most of them don't come to a conclusion. They say the study is too small, or not enough areas, or that kind of thing.
I think that in the studies, putting signs, you'll see them for deaf child at play
Yes.
and things like that. And what happens is it gives those people a sense of false security. If we put those signs up and you're feeling comfortable, I don't think that it's going to make a big difference. I think that the traffic and stuff is going to be exactly how it is. I don't know, it's,
Well, I guess, and I had a conversation with Ms. Schaum
Ms.
on the phone, and I explained to her, you know, these people that are, well, she's already said they're speeding in the area, which is a violation of a law.
Yes.
It's a
Yeah.
residential area with a 25-mile-an-hour speed limit. Then if they go through a stop sign, they're supposed to stop for a stop sign, so that sign's already in place. So that would be more of an enforcement action on
Right.
on laws that are already existing in the area. And I too read that with that the fear in putting those signs up is that it would give people, you know, that just because they have a sign up, they think that it's gonna, you know,
make
them
people
safer.
slow down, yeah.
Which that's, you know, what I've read is that that's not, and Ms. Schaum says that, you know, she's read contrary, that there's smaller studies, correct?
Several of them said, you know, they couldn't come to a conclusion because the study was too small.
Okay.
And I believe my neighbor, Linda, read similar things. More studies were needed.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Just on the off chance that one person sees the sign and doesn't hit me as a result, would be worth it.
And if you've been through the training with your, the white, with
Yes,
the white
I
cane?
learned to use a white cane
You
in
said that you went through the
January.
training up at the Leader Dog?
Yes,
right?
at
Okay.
Leader Dog. Yeah, that was very helpful. If you know anybody that needs that,
They're great
it's
people
wonderful.
up
It's a great-
through the Leader
Yeah.
Dog. They do
Yes.
wonderful things.
It's
Yeah.
called orientation and mobility.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Any other questions?
Anyone else have
I
any
don't have anything,
questions?
Mrs. Shaw.
Okay, thank you very much, Mrs. Shaw.
Hey,
You can go ahead, yeah, you can go ahead and sit down. Thank you very much.
Pat, do you have anything to add as engineering to this issue? I know we had talked before, because you have some experience from Ann Arbor, correct? With-
Yeah, I know what we had discussed is, you know, there isn't a standard sign in the manual for this type of situation, but there is latitude in there that you can make a warning sign with special text message. That's usually what these fall into. What I was telling Harry was, when I was at the city, we had a policy, normally what we dealt with was deaf children, blind children. I think we may have had autistic children signs too. But we had a policy where there was a request form, you know, you needed documentation from a doctor, and then needed agreement with the requester that if they move, they'd notify the city, so, you know, you could take the sign out or relocate it. So I think if, you know, you wanted to embark on this, you probably needed to set up some of those policy parameters first. But you could do it, it's a matter of whether you had the guidelines in place. So.
And then this type of sign would be a caution sign and not regulatory, correct?
Correct. It would just be a warning sign where, you can put special messages on there for whatever the situation applies.
Okay.
And it'd probably be 250 feet from, if you figured a primary crossing point for it, usually if it's a deaf child sign, you try and go 250 feet from each side to the residence, so you cover that area.
Now, you said that at that time too in Ann Arbor, did they have it where it was for kids under 18 or something like, didn't you?
Yeah, that was the other part of the policy too. If they moved or, they had their birth date on there, so we had it in our inventory when the sign would expire. We essentially expired it when they were 18, so.
I had a question. Okay. The placement of the sign was by how far it was from the residence, but not from the streets? In other words, there's 3 streets in this particular area, so.
Yeah, I mean, this might be a little different if you looked at where those 3 streets converge and then try to go out that distance. Just 250 feet is a normal warning distance at 25 miles an hour. That should give you enough, reaction and stopping time before you get there.
And these signs may or may not fall near a sidewalk crossing. They might be after a sidewalk crossing, depending on where the resident's located at in the block.
Yeah,
Correct?
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It would depend on the location.
Okay.
And Pat, as I'm reading here and I'm looking at this, this would not be a regulatory sign, correct?
Correct, yeah.
So then it would have no, what's the word I'm looking for here?
Legality?
Is that it?
Have no,
Yeah.
it says the regulatory signs have the force of the law, but the caution signs do not.
So in other words, if someone runs that sign, there's nothing that can be, I mean, it can't be enforced.
Right. I mean,
Well, I don't
the
think it's
likely
an-
outcome is,
Yeah, it's
there would
not
be
an
a crash
enforced-
with a pedestrian.
Right.
Then that would be
Right.
a whole
Yeah.
different
Well,
enforcement
yeah.
issue.
Yeah, it's not an enforceable sign because the speed limit's 25 and, there's no set places to cross the street there and,
Well, what I'm thinking about though is if you have somebody, let's say Miss Sham, and she's going out for her walk, and she sees somebody run that sign, it doesn't come to a complete stop or whatever, it says caution, it just says caution, which means you need to slow down. And they don't do that, let's say. There's no action on the part of the police department to enforce that. Am I correct?
Correct. Correct. Yeah, I mean, if there's issues with them, not coming to a complete stop at the stop sign, maybe there's other measures to do
Right.
there. Maybe there's crosswalk treatments or, pedestrian treatments you can do to help facilitate crossing.
And you
I've
shouldn't be
been to-
and you shouldn't be crossing in the middle of the block, because that's also against the law.
There's no corner there, really.
Right.
When you
No,
think
there
about it,
isn't.
it's a triangle
I've
thing.
been to the, where you live, and being that there's 3 roads that intersect there, I understand all that's been said about the signs and how what goes on with them, but I'd like to see one anyway, with all the three roads that are there. But you're saying that you have to go through these other procedures first, is that correct?
Well, that's what I'd recommend. I mean, you guys haven't done this before, so, however you do it, if you just, made a memorandum of this is what we'll do here
It
forward,
would probably
that's
have
what
to
I'm
go through
thinking.
council, wouldn't it?
That would have to, that would be something, but that would also be, good to come from this board to review that. And then go forward to council with if we're going to have a policy to do that. And it might be something that council just decides to direct administration to come up with a policy for when that is. The problem comes in is, like we've had in the past, is you will get other requests for
Yeah.
these.
Yeah.
Is it possible, Chief, let me just throw this out as a thought. Is it possible to do a trial on this sign thing? In other words, can we set something up for that area for, say, 6 months and see how it works? And whether or not it does work or it doesn't work? As a way, because we've never done it before.
But I guess what I would ask is, what is your gauge of whether it works or not?
Well, I guess if we get any more complaints that people aren't paying attention to the signs, or,
That would be my concern, because once you put it up, I don't know where you're going to be able to say yes or no to whether that is an effective sign. I think that's where therein lies the problem with, like Ms. Schaum said, with studies, is how do you
right,
gauge that?
Right.
Other than, God forbid, a pedestrian crash, and we don't have those, fortunately, we don't have the numbers of pedestrian crashes in that area.
But I think your idea of sending it to the council and letting them make up a policy, and the policy may state something about the fact that we can't be putting them all over the city.
Well, see,
This is
that's-
an exception with 3 roads converting there.
Right.
It's kind of an exceptional area right there.
And another possibility, I live a few streets away from there, that intersection's odd with the stop signs and
It's a
the
kind
crossing.
of
So I don't know if
One of them, you have to kind of look back.
backwards if you're heading towards
Right.
westbound towards Crook. So I don't.
Then you're always hoping that you're catching all the cars that are coming down when you're.
Correct. And I'm thinking out loud, I know you can cross on the south side, south, east, and west direction. And if you're going to the north over by where Phillips and North Selfridge is, you can cross there. But I don't know if that continues all the way across to the opposite side of the street.
where is that?
You mean like a sidewalk crossing?
Sidewalk crossing.
I think it's just driveways, people.
I know you can go from essentially if you're on the, get my bearings, south side of Phillips, you can cross to the north side of Phillips on the easterly part of the intersection. But I don't know if there's a crossing on the east side from there going from the, essentially would be the south part to the north part of the street.
I don't think there is.
There's a sidewalk in front of my house that goes directly, actually, you would have to cross.
Oh, can you come up to the microphone real fast? Sorry. They don't pick it up if we're not by the microphone.
Hi, I live on 940 West Selfridge, so I live exactly where the stop signs are at the point where the island is, right next to the mailbox. And there's a sidewalk next to the mailbox, and directly in front of my house, there's a sidewalk going straight out to the street, which actually just goes to the
Nothing.
island
Yeah.
or across the street. So you really have to kind of,
Sidewalk to nowhere.
yeah.
And
Right.
that's what I was trying to remember.
Right,
Yeah.
so,
And
but
it's-
it's
yeah.
right there by the street, so it's right there by the stop sign. So I know that when Ginny comes, she has to cross the street over on Selfridge and come across and stop at the island, and then cross there by the stop sign, across the street, the very bumpy, broken-up street, to the sidewalk there and walk over to the mailbox. So there is a little sidewalk there, and you can go by the stop sign. But like I said, it's 3 roads, it's busy, and if just one person saw a sign and slowed down, I think it would be well worth it, because this is new to her. She gets around by walking, and now she's using her cane. And we have a very small, tight-knit neighborhood, and we're all in support of Ginny getting something put up there so that we don't lose our neighbor because she's trying to cross the street. It's really detrimental enough trying to get across the street where it's a little broken up in pieces, much less having to worry about cars that are speeding down there. And maybe if they did see a sign, I know that if I saw a sign, I would be more conscientious about looking for someone who maybe would be in that area with a cane or any pedestrian trying to cross. So,
Okay, thank you for the information.
all right.
And the policy would probably be a good idea to address, because it's always, you almost hate to say, you appreciate the concerns that people have, and,
Yeah.
you'd like to see the warnings,
Right.
but what,
What exactly do we have?
what do you, yeah.
What's
the-
going to work
What
and
is the
what's
set
sensible?
policy for that? And, and that would be a council call. What do they want to do? Do we want to, because we will have more, because
Yeah.
we've had them in the past, and we'll
Yes.
get them. And if we come forward with this, you got to be fair to everybody. So if you're going to have the policy of maybe setting, when they'd be appropriate, and that would probably be something that maybe we could move forward with. I can try to gather some information. Does Ann Arbor have that policy then? Do you know, Pat, or?
Yeah, I mean, we had a policy, I'm not sure where it is, like I said, whether it was actually something, that was adopted by council, or it was just something that we had in the engineering department. Can't say, but that's a procedure we went to, and there was a place on the website you could go and get the application to send it in with the requirements. So.
And then you have everybody gives, because Ms. Shalom sent me her, medical information and stuff like that, as far as showing that she would be, so that would be the type of information you'd be looking for then.
Oh, that's good. We
Yeah,
already
yeah,
have that then.
Yeah.
That's very good.
I wonder if Royal Oak has a policy.
I don't know, that could be, so I can do some homework to see if I can. if
Because I know they
anybody's
have
got
signs up in
policies.
different areas, and I'm thinking of one right now. It's off of 13 Mile on Breckenridge, I think it is.
Okay.
I'm not sure if it's
I
Breckenridge.
think I've seen
but-
that sign
yeah,
because
deaf child
my
in
wife
area.
takes that out to work, that cut through.
Yeah,
We're some of those people that are using the side streets to
Yes, yeah.
go through.
yeah, and that's been there for,
Yeah, that's
Ever.
that's the thing, and we at one time had signs in the area that they just got old and they came down and never were replaced,
right.
so.
Would John have to get involved with this for a policy, do you think?
Well,
or-
that'd be up to the council, probably.
Yeah, I guess I've never come up with a policy on the signs like this, so I'd have to look into it
Okay.
and ask the questions.
Yeah.
So maybe we should
I'm
make a
thinking if there's any
motion.
legalities involved here with
Right,
doing that.
for a
so-
legal opinion for that, yeah.
Yeah.
But it sounds like, according to Pat, that we need to do that, instead of putting the,
Research first, I think.
I guess that could be an action motion, is to
Yeah, should we make a motion then to look into the
to research
policies and do
what
research on it so
policies
that
are, and,
we can,
because we should do this and have all of this put together at this level, I think, to forward on to what the thoughts are of this board.
Right.
To council, to make a decision of whether they want to move forward with adopting a policy like that.
right, I think that'd be
Because,
a good idea.
they're saying that there's a whole neighborhood of people that are concerned
Right.
for Ms. Shalom, and,
Yeah.
if it gives some peace of mind, you just hope that it's not, I don't want to give her, you still need to be careful out there, and not count on signs, I just don't want to, I don't want to be the one that says, hey, we're putting this sign up, so you're going to be safe for these people that are already going through stop signs and speeding, those are the ones that, that we have to deal with, so.
Yeah, hopefully people see that sign and be a little more cautious and.
Yeah, and,
Can help.
and there may be other things, and that could be a decision that council could make with, as far as exactly what direction to go for, as far as, what the guidelines would be for it, what they would like to, so that it's not, you don't have what would you, maybe a documented, bona fide medical condition or something like that. And then
Well, or
have-
the traffic condition that she faces, not everybody
Could be,
faces.
yeah, it could be location, like a complex intersection or a complex area, something that's a little out of the ordinary. And so,
Okay.
All right, well, I'll make a motion to do the research and we need to look
explore
into
for the
it.
policy.
Forward it
Res-
to the
research.
council.
And go to council once we, I think, come forward with an agreement on what we want to do with that, or
And then I was just thinking, should we have Pat just take a quick look at the intersection, just to see what the existing conditions are out there, and if there's any,
That sounds like there might be an issue with
with,
that.
if there should be any other
crosswalk to nowhere.
Yeah.
improvements, if
Well,
maybe
that-
there should be other improvements too, if we are looking at possibly adding signage too.
Yeah, that crosswalk to nowhere, it's not even handicap accessible.
No, I don't think it is.
It just stops right at, it's a
Well,
curve.
there were a lot of those around town,
Yeah.
the ones that they would just go down and end. And they-
Yes.
And they were going through and they were curbing all of those, just to make it so that you're not having somebody just
Pounce.
walk out into the street where it's
Right.
not a crosswalk. And that might be one that was missed or,
Right.
you know. Yeah. Because I know they did a whole citywide plan, what they were doing that at a bunch of places. I remember
Yeah.
down around, down like Bellevue Grove area.
Right.
Had a bunch of those down there.
I remember they got rid of some.
Yeah, they went
Yeah,
through and they
completely took it out,
ripped them
put
off
grass
so that you
there,
couldn't-
and,
so that people weren't crossing out there.
Right,
Because they would be going from there to someone's driveway or
Yeah.
Yeah.
nothing on the other side or,
right, we had that over on the other side.
Wasn't there one over by Kenwood?
There was one over by.
there was a bunch of them
Yeah.
around, I know.
Yeah.
Yeah. Trying to think, over by Rinshaw. There was,
Yep.
in that park and stuff.
Yeah,
Yep.
down by the Parkland Park, that's down off
Yes.
of Bellevue.
Yes,
Yeah,
yeah.
there was a bunch of them down there, that Bellevue, Grove, Gardner area down in that way.
Okay, so is there a motion at all?
I'll make a motion.
Do you want me to summarize my notes?
Sure.
To research policies about installing signs for a blind person in the area, to have chief look at nearby cities to see what their
See if they have that in place.
policies are, and then have Pat to review the intersection to see the existing conditions and possibly what can be improved on, and bring that information
Back to us.
back to us. Is there a
I
motion for
second.
that?
I made a motion for that?
Okay. All those in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion has passed.
Thank you.
And we'll keep you, and then Chief will keep you up to date if it's going to be on the next meeting agenda, so that way you guys are informed and kind of can hear what information we've gathered from over the past month. Okay? Thank you so much for your time. We appreciate it. Okay, next on the agenda for B is alley parking between Lincoln and Bowers.
Yes, that alley parking, it is the same people that came and spoke at the council meeting before, Mrs. Grossman.
Oh, yeah.
And the businesses there are parking where sometimes they're obstructing the city alleyway, making it difficult for cars to pass. She sent me a couple of videos, but there's something going on in the translation from the email deal, kind of like what the Moores have. I can't play it. It's not coming up. It was the video. They have an in-car camera in their cars, and
Oh.
so I think it's something with what my technology on my computer isn't matching what needs to be there for playing that.
Do they know who's parking there? Is it-
It's the businesses, there's the, I think, what is it, a new judo or taekwondo place?
Yeah, and martial
CrossFit?
arts.
Yeah. Have you seen it down there, Jeff? Because have you seen the cars parked in the alley?
Easy there.
Oh, so people are parking in the alley.
They're out blocking the alleyway. It's a publicly maintained alley. And it's
Right.
and it should be clear.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, 'cause-
my thought is that it should have, we could sign it to cover that, to let them know, and to give our guys something to enforce down there.
Yeah.
As far as, no parking or no obstructing the alley or some kind of signage. Have you had that before, Pat? Could you?
Yeah, a lot of times the alleys, so what ends up happening is, they're too narrow, but deliveries are slated to go in there, and they end up kind of self-regulating between the businesses. They work out, delivery times. If you have, passenger cars going through there as well, that's kind of a different animal, but usually the businesses self-regulate the alley usage, or I say
Right.
self-regulate. They might duke it out, but they manage it, among themselves. So.
Yeah, because the deal is a lot of these residents down there are using that to avoid the Rochester Road traffic.
Right.
Which is what we discussed before, which I think it makes this a little more visible there with that. And then, I guess like Pat says, what do you do about deliveries? But this kind of business isn't gonna have,
Right.
it's not gonna
But-
have deliveries at a CrossFit
But
place.
south of there's Doc Suites, so they might have deliveries in the
It won't be
The
alley.
way they were
long,
explaining
though.
it to me, though, is the people aren't utilizing the parking that's back there. They're
And I
parking
guess
out.
then-
And if you look back there, the people are parking where there's not much room to park right now.
Mm-hmm.
So they're now out and utilizing. If you go by there, if you see the west side of the buildings at a certain area, it gets pretty tight in there. You could probably not block the alley if you had a small car, but a big car may be sticking out into the alley.
Yeah, there was no one,
We drove.
I've
by-
been through there too, and I haven't seen
Yeah, we
anybody.
didn't
There's
see
no-
anybody there.
I know we
Every-
had-
It's like
I
almost
wonder
every
if
one of
it's-
those shops has a.
I think
their
it's the
own parking
I think it's the
area off of
CrossFit.
Off of the alley.
It's the
I wonder if
CrossFit
when that
place.
martial arts is having maybe a big class or something, you got extra parents trying to find
It-
parking.
Cause-
I saw it last night.
Because Jeff lives kind of in that area, and he says that it's
Just during class time.
Yeah.
I guess maybe another thing to reference, I'm assuming that when they submitted the plans for planning and city approval, that it did not show a parking space or parking back behind the
that's a good-
building.
Yeah, I can review that.
So
and
we can
see what
review that and essentially it might just be.
That is
an
a planning commission. That should be up to them to
And-
make sure that.
And I guess
had
maybe the
enough
first
parking.
step is to have them maybe try to enforce that and see if that will clear it up. And then maybe if that doesn't, then maybe look at signage.
Where is that?
The martial arts thing?
Yeah.
Right next to Doc Suites.
Right next to
Wasn't-
Doc's.
Isn't that the old cleaners?
Yes, the old
Yes.
dry
The old
cleaners.
cleaner building, the
It's-
Rags to
Yeah, they
Riches
fixed
or
it up
whatever it was,
nice.
I think it was called.
Yeah.
Because when we drove down there today, we looked off and almost every one of those buildings has parking
Yes.
off to the side of the alley, so it's not in the alley at all. And so I couldn't figure out what the problem was
Yeah, and I
because we
couldn't,
didn't see
and I
anything.
wanted those videos, but I couldn't, because I asked her, I said, do you have any kind of pictures of this,
Mm-hmm.
And maybe I can have her send me like a cell phone picture or something like that, or
Probably.
email me a picture when the problem's happening, since I can't play the video.
I'm assuming probably between like 4:30 and 7:30,
Evening classes.
their evening classes.
That
Now,
is the
which would be about
classes
the
and-
time those guys are coming home from work and
Right,
cutting through the
and running
alley.
into all the traffic on Rochester
So
Road.
that
Yes.
is that's a planning commission issue. They have to meet
Well-
with them and see, what they can work out. They apparently didn't require enough parking when they put them in the building.
And the
Or
other thing
people-
is, we could just sign a no parking in alley and leave it at that with the police understanding that, yes, there are going to be people loading and unloading, but with those what is there now, they're not going to be there more than 15 minutes
Yeah,
or
I'm not sure
something.
whether you'd have anything in there that's really loading. Oh, Doc Suites, I guess, could have a delivery of
He has
candy.
quite a bit of area, though.
I thought-
Yeah, he still has a lot of
I
area.
thought so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The Mrs. Grossman said that it was from this business, though, this Taekwondo or the CrossFit business. And which makes sense because it's a new business there, so now they're seeing
Jeff, do
it.
you know how much parking they actually have? I couldn't see from the back very well.
It depends on the class. So sometimes they're big class size.
Yeah.
So it must have
And
been.
I've seen people going to Doc Suites, all of a sudden they have a busy day and they're parking over in the CrossFit parking, so.
Well, I think we should send this back to the planning commission to have them take a look at this area. Maybe take a look at several businesses and just, if there's not enough parking, then they need to figure out what they're gonna do with it.
They're either
I
going
mean,
to
us
have to
putting up
share.
a no parking sign is like a Band-Aid. It's always gonna be there then. You're always gonna be trying to patrol and somebody's always gonna be trying to park there.
Yep.
And
Or-
we need to figure out, the planning commission needs to figure out how to accommodate the business.
They can sometimes have shared parking if there's another business, perhaps that has 8 spaces and only uses 2 most of the time, or,
Right.
you know, there's things that can be done maybe to work through that, but.
Or do we sign it no parking in an alley and see if those people who were parking there, maybe they just find a spot a little farther down in one of the places that are closed? Because I think there's like a doctor's office or something right along there, and I never see cars there, and there's probably other
Well,
places they can
They
park.
called our guys out, and I talked to the officer that was out there, and he said that he didn't see a problem when he was there with the complaint, and he had been through the area a couple of times. But it sounds like it's not people out parking in the alley itself, you know, like out parking.
just the
They're sticking
sticking
out,
out.
protruding is what it is. They're parking at the back of the building and sticking out so that it's blocking the alley, and it's a tight alley to start with. And
So I wonder if the parking lot is even marked for where to park, if it has lines or anything.
Well, we saw lines.
Were there
at some of
lines?
them. Now, I'm not going to say all of those buildings, but some of those buildings did have marked parking spaces.
Yeah, and then probably part of the plan submittal, if it was approved parking back behind the building near the alley, that would have to been marked as part of the
Right.
approval of the plans.
so you want to make a motion for us to send this issue back to the planning commission then, is that, for review?
You wanna?
Or do
It's not-
we
I
They
did-
sent us
do
some
we need
stuff a while back,
to,
so.
do we need to know, like, well, here's the thing, though. If the planning commission said, yeah, it's okay, that's a parking spot there, but my husband comes over there and parks there, and he's got this big truck, it's probably going to stick out. So then what?
Right,
Well, they'd have to
They're not in the
address
wrong for
that.
parking there,
Somebody
but-
has to address what's happening.
Yeah, so-
Yeah.
Or is it similar like what we ran into on North Selfridge with the physical therapy place? Do you maybe just try to get in contact with the owners and saying, hey, we're getting a few complaints about the parking in the alley? Or, or someone from the city talk to them about it that way first.
I don't know.
I'm not sure.
I'd have to look at the parking and see what it looked like.
They could have just compact cars in that space by the alley.
they could fit there, the little car, a
Yeah,
little
Oh,
car.
compact.
Compact cars,
It's
but
just-
not full-size trucks, yeah.
And I think that's what the problem is you get a bigger vehicle there, and it's blocking the alley.
Maybe we should talk to the planning and tell them maybe they need to have the owner of that company put a sign up that
Yeah,
says
just compact
compact cars only in that one spot. Just so that it doesn't block the alley.
Yeah, and I'm not sure, not looking at the site plan, if that was even approved parking space, back there or
Right,
not.
right.
Yeah, that's kind of, they know what's allowed there, and I don't know. I just think I would send it back to them.
Okay.
I would start by sending it back.
Yeah,
Would you
get their
like to make-
reaction
Let
to it,
them-
see if
yeah,
they can
let
say,
them
well,
know
there's
there's
nothing
an
that we can
issue
do, and
here.
then, yeah.
And doesn't seem to be enough parking, or there's a parking problem, and they need to review it and take a look at this. They approved them originally, or they should have.
Yeah, and I think if that parking spot isn't big enough to hold a full-size vehicle, then a sign should be put there for compact cars only.
Or there may be something in the design that.
Can
it's
be
not-
changed
It's
or,
not supposed to be there.
That
Right,
hasn't
right.
been done.
Yeah.
That happens a lot. You
So
know,
s-
people say, okay, we'll take care of that, give us 6 months or something. and 6 months goes by and it's not taken care of, so.
Yeah, because I know with the plans that they submit, they have, what the size of the spaces are.
Yep.
And engineer can look at that and say, well, yeah, that space isn't big enough to accommodate a car. Or
Right.
whatever, so.
it's kind of like when they redid the area on Elmwood by the football field. They took off 2 feet of the parking spot. Well, now if I go there to park with my husband's truck, I stick out 2 feet into the street.
I wouldn't take your husband's truck,
I know,
because you know
but it
you'll
was
get
good for the
yelled at.
fireworks. Okay, do you want to make a motion to send it to the planning?
Are you gonna?
Well, I'll make the motion I think what we want to do is, let's make the motion to send this, this back to the planning commission for
Review.
review and possibly updating or.
I'll second that.
All those in favor of sending this item back to the the planning commission to review the information and possibly update, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion has passed. Next up, item C is traffic control order 08-18.
Yeah, it's.
Oh, sorry, 01-18.
Yeah, I just wanted to, it kind of happened in between meetings. Again, it was this time of year again for Lent.
Yeah, we did it last year, I think.
Yeah.
Yep.
And so I issued a temporary traffic control order to allow parking on one side, on the Clawson side of Elmwood, but away from the intersection. And I gave you a copy of that, which is,
Yep.
it's the same as what we did. We came to the conclusion last year after reviewing it and seeing that it was safe for vehicle operation around there. So they just, it's, again, they, especially with this wet weather, they don't have the overflow parking up on their grassy areas of the Knights of Columbus, and it's for, six Fridays. So, I just wanted to keep the board posted on it. And,
In case anyone says, hey, do you see all those cars parked there?
yeah, well,
We'll know why.
we have had that
Yeah.
before, the complaints on it, we dealt with that, so. I just wanted to make sure that I kept you guys posted on that, so.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks. Okay, any other discussion for new business items?
Well, I was wondering if we've heard anything on what exactly they're going to be doing at Main and 14 with their reconstruction. Have you seen a plan or anything for
I
it?
have not seen a plan on it. I know, because we still have that issue of the trucks turning there.
Right. Also, I was wondering, and for some reason I can't.
I know that they looked at, in the engineering phase, they were looking at moving the crossbar back, but because of the design of the intersection, they're not able to have signage that would tell people to park or to stop at a certain area, because you've got cars parked over on the, you'd have to put a sign out in the middle of the roadway.
Right.
So that they were thinking that that was problematic. I know Pat sent them a copy of, the turning radius that showed that. That's been all turned into them, with Pat showing, ideally, to allow the trucks to turn, that would be what would happen. But it doesn't, in talking to the engineers, it doesn't sound like that's the direction they're going to go with the reconstruction, just because of it being problematic with the signage of where you're supposed to stop. So,
Are they planning on changing anything? I mean,
no, it's just going to be like a
resurfacing?
resurface.
Oh, a resurface, not a
I heard about it,
reconstruction.
because it's not a reconstruction, it's a
Okay.
resurface.
okay.
It's not a rebuild, it's a resurface.
Yeah, so they'll take off the first couple of inches of the existing pavement and then just
And-
pave over
Yeah.
it with new asphalt.
But this is the time to fix the turning problem.
Right.
We need to.
Do we have anything on that, Pat, or the report from TIA on the truck turns?
No, I mean, nothing more than what I had added last time. I didn't see a lot of conflicts when I watched the video. But had looked at, what the impact would be if you still allowed left turns off of 14 Mile onto Main. And that's what that stop bar relocation was supposed to address. What I just collected more data to look at possibly doing an exclusive pedestrian phase there. That was, I think from your DDA, that request came.
Yeah, yeah.
And looking at that, I'm wondering if they want an exclusive ped phase, or what you could do is what's called a leading pedestrian interval, where you start the walk like 4 seconds before the green starts. That would give the pedestrian time to get out in the street before turning traffic, cut them off. And maybe that's the solution there. But as far as the truck part, nothing new I think,
Anything on that, though, just either yay or nay, or anything that we could have in writing so that we could,
Well, I think if the geometry is still the same, you know, that right turn from westbound 14 Mile to northbound Main, it's not going to make it with that geometry. You know, do the plan we had talked about, you know, the past couple of years where you prohibit turns there for trucks and then you got to reroute them, and it's might be an issue of trying to capture them, say at Rochester Road. But I think if you're talking resurfacing and all the curbs are staying the same, that's probably what you.
yeah, all the curbs are
wanna
staying
do.
the same as what I've been told. It's a
Yeah.
resurface project, so.
I'm not sure I follow where they're talking about the signing for the stop bar. I mean, you can stagger the stop bar without a sign. You don't have to have a sign that says stop here. That's usually optional, and you only put that in when, you know, you have people encroaching across the stop bar into the crosswalk. So,
And right now, ideally, would probably be the best time to get that stop, if it does proceed with the stop bar back further, because you have to reinstall the traffic loops at the signals when they resurface
Right.
the road.
And that's what we've been waiting on, the reports, so that we could have that to give for the project, so.
yeah, I mean, that would be the ideal time. When they mill that off, they're gonna have to put in a new loop anyway, so.
Okay.
Thanks, Pat.
But if they have a stop bar, that's, the way it was explained to me is that if you had the stop bar that far back, this is what Mr. Drinkline was telling me, people aren't gonna, they're not gonna be able to see because it's so far back, and you have to have, and they're gonna be encroaching over the stop bar if the signage, if you don't say must stop here, like we have it.
Yeah, you know, people being what they are, they're not necessarily always going to be compliant with where the stop bar is, but I think it would be, you know, kind of a learning curve that it's there. Where I've seen these used more often is usually where it's a frequent bus route, and people get educated about it pretty quick. When a bus comes around the corner and nearly hits them, they tend to stay back. So.
And
It's,
there's a few, if I remember correctly, there's a few in Ann Arbor, correct? Or they've
Yes,
installed, yeah, okay.
yeah, around U of M Hospital, there's a lot of tight streets with buses that run through there. Xena Pitcher and Ann Street has a few of them. So,
Okay.
hope that helps.
Thanks, Pat.
Thank you.
Any other discussion items?
You know, I do have a discussion item, except that I can't remember where I saw it. But I'll bring it up anyways, and maybe somebody else saw the same thing. I just had a question about, I saw something in, I guess, our little local paper maybe, and it was with the DDA, our DDA. They were, and they were doing something with the traffic in downtown. And I thought, wow, that's kind of an interesting
I
thing.
know that they were doing the study to see about changing pedestrian crossings, and they were also just putting some signs up identifying our parking area. But I don't know what they're doing for, they had some kind of a person that was coming out to talk about the visions for the downtown area and such. That's all that I'm aware of.
And I think that was part of the Downtown Development Authority, like overall as part of whatever group they are, and they've got a traffic or a consultant that's helping them with that, that
Right.
does it at
Kinda
multiple,
like the
multiple
vision- Like the vision
DVDAs.
of, for what it could be in the future, and that, I know Joan had told me that they were gonna have somebody look at it or whatever, and look away and talk to the the DDA about it, but, I'm not sure what their plans are with that.
Okay, are they going to involve us at all?
My understanding was that this was somebody that was looking at it and giving them recommendations for things to come forward in the future, but they're not going to be changing anything unless it gets through, as far as the streets and everything like that, they don't have the authority to change all that stuff.
Okay.
I'll
It was just
I'll double check on it to make sure with that.
it was just a question I saw.
I didn't read that article, but I know that, that she asked if she could talk to Pat about the timings for pedestrians, so, for the crossing, to try to make it a little more pedestrian-friendly for crossing and give the pedestrians a little more time in the area.
Okay. I saw it and I thought, wow, I wonder why they're not coming to us to talk to us at least about it, or,
I can have Joan come to, or ask her if she can.
that's okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any other discussions for new items? Okay, is there a motion to adjourn the meeting?
I'll make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
And I will second that.
Thank you very much and have a good evening.